Can you see that long, tall house up by the level crossing? That used to be the well, there used to be a station there when this line was first built in the 1890s or something like that, when trains were first around. Yeah, there was a little station there called Yapton Halt, and that big house, that tall building right by the crossing, was the level crossing keeper's house. His name was Mr Osbourne, and he spent many years being the level crossing keeper. He was a local parish councillor, and I'm going to tell you the story about that level crossing. Obviously it's a derelict old station now. Somebody did buy it and start doing it up, but hasn't come to much. Anyway, we're going for a ride on the Sportster, and as we go I'll tell you the story about Mr Osbourne and the Yapton Level Crossing. Well, that's good timing. I might not have to wait too long. That bit of pavement there just in front of that privet hedge was where Mr Osborne used to sell his vegetables that he grew in the back garden. They were very popular. People were always stopping here to buy Mr Osborne's vegetables. And yeah, anyway, where do I begin? Mr Osbourne, I think his name was Geoffrey Osborne, but everyone just used to call him Mr Osbourne. He had a Sussex accent, which you don't hear very much nowadays. I mean, he was very old when I knew him. I think he was 98 when he died. He died in a local nursing home just down the road from here. When Mr Osbourne first started being the level crossing keeper, it was operated by a great big wheel. Some of you might remember, a great big hand wheel, and the gates closed from both sides. You had to wind them up. I'm not doing very good here trying to tell you about this. Yeah, and anyway, that was his job. I think he started quite young, and they decided, the powers that be, that they would change the level crossing from a manual, hand-operated one. I actually made a painting of Mr Osbourne standing at his wheel, on his wheel, looking down the line. He loved it, and I don't know where it is now. I think probably his daughter's got it. Anyway, that's by the by. Yeah, they changed it to a manual crossing, but they still needed someone there because I think it was modern technology or something. And although it was manual, he still had to operate it. It wasn't operated remotely. One day, soon after this new thing had been installed, there was a tragic accident on the crossing, fatal accident. A young woman and her child were hit by a train as they crossed in their car. To make it even worse, the young woman and the child were Mr Osborne's had to lengthen the cable, which will do somebody's OCD no good at all. Lost my thread. Where was I? Oh yes. Yes, the people who were killed on the level crossing were Mr Osbourne's daughter-in-law and I'm not absolutely sure, but I would think it would be his grandson. Just imagine that, being in control of that crossing. Having an accident was bad enough, but it actually being some of your family. The powers that be tried to blame it on Mr Osbourne. I don't know the ins and outs of all that, but they said it was his fault. That would have been made the tragedy 10 times worse. I think it took a few years before his name was cleared. Surprisingly, well, I think it is, he kept on the job, he stayed there. He spent all his life, all the rest of his life at the railway in that house, and even when he retired, he either rented the house from the railway or he bought it from them. He had a nice little yard next to it as well. I don't know if you can see, as I come out of my drive, straight ahead of me there's a nice little I don't know, it's a builder's yard now, but he used to keep hens and goats and geese and things there, and he used to grow his own vegetables, and as I say, he sold them at the gate. Very popular they were too. I don't know if they would be quite so popular if the people knew exactly what he used as compost, but yes, he did certainly grow some wonderful vegetables, and the compost he used was his own shit. There was never, and his wife, so you know, some of it was quite fragrant, I suppose. Anyway, he never used to divulge that to people, but yeah, all that time, and I would say it's about 15 years since he died, so it'd be about almost 20 years since he left that place. Yeah, 20 years since he left. Oh, I keep losing the thread because of the traffic. Right, Piccadilly Circus here. Yeah, he went to, I don't know how long they lived there, but 20 years ago, when he was, just before he left, he still didn't have a proper toilet, and he would, put it crudely, shit in a bucket, and then it used to go on to his vegetable plot. I mean, that was quite common in the old days. There's nothing unusual about that. Anyway, he stayed there all his life with his wife. She predeceased him by many years. Mr Osbourne suffered very badly from arthritis, and he used to get one of the local ladies from the village to come and bash him out, beat him with nettles. He used to get bundles of nettles, and he'd give him a damn good thrashing on his arthritic parts. I think it was only his arthritic parts. He was a bit of a lad with Mr Osbourne, apparently. Yeah, what else can I say? Oh yeah, and he swore that this was a wonderful cure for his arthritis. I've never tried it personally, but you know, I've got slightly arthritic fingers, but nothing serious. Yeah, so he stayed there all his life and sold his vegetables, you know, very cheaply. Oh, and he used to cut firewood and logs, sold them at the gate. All in all, quite a nice life. I mean, I'd quite like to emulate it, to be honest. I used to think, oh, I'd like to do that. Yeah, he went. Where was I? Oh yes. Anyway, he used to sell his vegetables, and one day he was visited by two young. Oh, I forget that bloody thing there. Don't see it. Yeah, he's visited by two young men, and they wanted to do a deal with him. They wanted to buy all his vegetables, but they couldn't do it at the moment. But they didn't have a van, and they arranged to buy them and pick them up at a later time. Mr Osbourne was agreeable to this arrangement. Yes, he said, you can come any time you like, but don't come on Thursday afternoons, because that's the day that I visit my wife in the hospital. Well, Thursday came and went, and when Mr Osbourne got home from the hospital, his house had been absolutely ransacked. Lots of precious memories taken from him. He was a very old man then. Well, that was about, his wife died, and that was about the end of him. He went into a local nursing home. He survived another couple of years, and then he died. He was also quite a poet. He used to write poems about village life and about the railways and all sorts of stuff like that. I actually do miss Mr Osbourne, and it's been about, must be over 20 years. I used to see him in the park when he'd moved into the nursing home. I used to see him sitting in the park on his own. He seemed quite a sad, forlorn figure. I used to sit and have a chat with him. But yeah, that was his life, the end of his life. A man who'd served his community all his life, to end it having everything stolen from him. Oh, anyway, we're now approaching the level crossing from the other side. Yeah, oh, Mr Osbourne was also a parish councillor. I told you that, didn't I? Yeah, that's about it really. It feels a bit strange riding this bike without gloves on. I know it's naughty, but I just couldn't cope anymore. With the old microphone keep falling up and having to turn the camera on and off. Anyway, that's it. That's a funny, strange, tragic story of the Yapton Level Crossing. Although Mr Osbourne did say that when he first went there, that the road was just a single track road. It wasn't, you know, hardly tarmacked, it was just a tracked road. So, you know, a lot has happened, isn't it, in the last 100 years or so. Here we are back at the crossing. There's my son crossing the road down there. Alright, son. Here we are now. It seems like I've just been on the short ride, but I haven't actually. I was on a ride before I stopped to tell you the story of Mr Osbourne and the level crossing. Thanks for joining me today. See you again soon, I hope. Bye.